Hi, biology students. We just learned and finished looking at the different organelles within cells. And it's really important now that we figure out how do we get different things inside our cell or how do things get outside of a cell as well. So there are two different types of transports, which is just the way that things move in a cell or move outside of the cell. One of them is called passive transport and one of them is called active transport. We will be talking about both of these, but we're going to focus first on the passive side of transport first. And passive transport does not need energy to move from high concentration to low concentration. What that means is it can just move from high concentration to low without us needing an energy molecule. And we'll talk more about the energy molecule, but in this class, we'll talk a lot about ATP as our energy molecule. For passive transport, I'll get into more detail on this in a little bit. The other side is active transport, and this requires energy to move from areas of low concentration to areas of high concentration. When you're looking at this, I want you to really focus on the difference between these. Passive, not requiring energy, high to low. Active requires energy and goes low to high. It's the opposite. We'll go into more detail then about the types of passive transport. There's diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and under diffusion, there's also osmosis, which is really hard to see on the screen here, but underneath there is osmosis, and we'll go into more detail about that. If I were you, I would pause the video and I would draw this on the back of my note sheet because it's going to help you to have these notes down in this diagram. We're going to start then on passive transport. And if you have your notes packet, you will see the words passive transport. So I will show you where this is. But if you go under cell transport here at the bottom of your page, you will see passive transport. Passive transport, it is a form of transport that does not require energy, like I said before, to move from high to low. You really want to make sure you write this down and you've got this part. So high to low. We have this thing called a semi-permeable membrane, and this is a membrane where some molecule types can move through while others cannot. So if there's a molecule that's too big, it is not going through that semi-permeable membrane. It needs to be things that can actually move through that. There are two different types of things we'll look at. Things that are hydrophobic, which means that it hates water. So phobia is a fear of, so it fears or hates the water. And there will be things that are hydrophilic. They love water. They want to be near water. Diffusion then is one type of passive transport. And what we're going to see is it's going to move, like we said, from an area of high concentration to low concentration with no energy needed. We're going to see that there's this thing called a concentration gradient. And the concentration gradient in this case is high to low for diffusion. If you look up here at this picture, we have high concentration right here of molecules on this side and a low concentration on this side. And over time, you'll see that there's going to be some that are going to move from the high concentration side to the low concentration side until they reach this thing called equilibrium, which is in this picture here. And equilibrium is when both sides have equal amounts on both sides. Osmosis is one type of diffusion, and it's a diffusion of water specifically through a selectively permeable membrane with no energy needed. As we can see here in this picture, osmosis is happening. We have water molecules on this side, water molecules on this side. They're equal amounts, and we call this isotonic. And I'll get into more detail on this in the next slide. But over here, we have water molecules on this side, water molecules on this side, but we also have sugar molecules in a high concentration on this side. And so we say that side B is hypertonic because there's more sugar molecules on this side. So in this case, what's going to happen is the water is going to want to move to be able to try to even this out, and we're going to end up trying to get to this thing called equilibrium. In this last picture here, we actually see that we are going to have a solution here where we still have more sugar molecules on this side, and then we have water on this side. And again, like it says here, we're trying to get to equal sides to reach equilibrium. There are two words that are really important. It's a solute and a solvent. Solute is when we dissolve something in a solvent. In our lab, you will have a solute, something that you put inside of something else that is going to dissolve it. So the substance that dissolves the solute is called the solvent. And so you'll take your solute, you'll put it in your solvent, and it will dissolve. So the one that dissolves is always a solute. Here you can see examples of hypotonic, isotonic, and hypertonic in this picture here. We will go more into detail with this in class, so I'm okay actually if you leave your notes blank for those. And this is with red blood cells, so we'll come back to those. Facilitated diffusion then is the net movement from high concentration to low concentration through proteins, but still no energy is needed. So we add here a protein into, oops, sorry, let me go back. We add a protein here, and this is going to be called facilitated diffusion. Active transport, though, is the difference is we see this protein, but we see this ATP molecule. And whenever we see ATP, we should think right away energy. It requires energy to move from a low concentration here, low concentration, to a high concentration here at the bottom. And so we need this energy molecule to open this carrier protein to allow the molecules to move from one side to the other of the cell. And we'll talk more with our gummy bear lab about what happens in salt water and distilled water soon. And I don't want to give away too many details with that. If you have any questions about the type of transport, please let me know. Make sure that if you are confused by them, go back and watch this again and make sure you got these notes in for next class.